think what you have to bear in mind with Abu Dhabi is that a lot of their strategic thinking is actually conditioned by the advice that came from the very enlightened first ruler of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Zayed. And his philosophy was very much one of diversification away from oil for a sustainable future. And I think that's embedded in their thinking. So as far as IRENA is concerned, this was a big step towards a move towards sustainability. They wanted to demonstrate that an international organization on alternative, renewable, clean energy can work here. But they've also established a target now of 7%. It's still relatively modest by 2020. They want to move to renewables by 7% of their energy mix. But they're also investing in some very foresighted ventures overseas. They've invested in Spain in the Herma Solar plant, which is a very innovative concentrated solar plant, which can actually, through molten salt storage, generate power for 15 hours a day. So they're actually looking forward, and I think they should be judged more by their long-term strategic vision than what you see today.
We see the emerging markets in particular starting to spend a lot more money on renewables right now. Why are they so interested in putting the upfront money, even though there is a kind of breakthroughs in oil and shale gas?
Last year, India was the fastest growing market for renewables in the world. China was the biggest. Brazil was one of the majors in terms of investment in renewable energy. And I think it's all about what the future holds. And we're seeing a resource-constrained future. We're seeing trends of global environmental degradation and climate change. We're seeing the possibility that high oil prices are going to continue for a long time, which are having a very negative impact on development. And the cost equation for renewables is actually coming into line now for many of these countries.
It's interesting. We look for game changers on this program, and one clearly is oil and gas shale and what it could do to the U.S. market in terms of production and not being a net importer of energy. Doesn't that change the equation and that drive by some of the countries that could tap into shale and not put the money up front into renewables?
Actually, we see shale gas as an enabler for renewables. One of the problems for renewables has been this perception of intermittency and variability in power generation. And with shale gas, we see the possibility of a relatively lower carbon emitting source that can begin to provide the kind of baseload that you need to integrate larger shares of renewables. So I think there's a synergy between shale gas and renewables potentially that's a winner.
It's not going to push people out of the market and say, I have a low cost option, particularly with the natural gas coming online?
Well, there are a number of issues that are still debatable about shale gas. There's the environmental issues, of course, and there's a discussion in many countries about that, but also the economics of this. As everybody rushes into shale gas, what's the downside down the road? There's still issues that have to be addressed. But I think that in a longer term perspective, from the perspective of energy security and sustainability, renewables technologies have evolved both in terms of efficiency and cost to a point where they are a very rational decision today.